longer with. We are recording.
Foster.
Okay. I was almost here half an hour early. I totally forgot the meetings. Been to 50 of them, but I totally forgot there was 50. So we locked it off. Who did the honors in running the meeting in August?
I don't know who ran it.
Josh.
Oh, because he called it to order.
I wasn't paying attention, was I?
Yeah, I didn't put your papers in your folders, so you'll have to do that. I just laid them out.
Oh, gosh. Somebody's just not doing their jobs. You gotta remember what month it is, too. Okay, under October, in my book, it says October 13th to 22.
Yeah, because this is the new one. So
Yeah, I didn't put your new one in.
So you
That's
didn't,
last.
we never took the old, so we,
Right.
do we
Right.
take the old one out, or do we just put it in?
We can
Whatever
leave it.
you want.
Oh, okay, that's it.
I got to reflect back what we did a year ago.
Yeah, that's what I like to do too. Hello.
Be expecting another one or two members?
Well, Margaret is not coming and Foster is supposed to be here, but.
Give him a minute. Cleaning the paint off his hands. Put his discs away.
I knew what you meant by the paint, so. Okay.
Shall we get this, do we want to get it rolling since it's 6:30? I'll call the October Park and Rec Board meeting to order at 6:30. And do a roll call, please.
Here.
You are?
Here.
John Sparks?
Here.
Sandy Golston?
Here.
Ava J?
Here.
Margaret?
Here. That's everybody. Awesome. So, most of us were trying to, but that was loud. But I see most of us were probably taking a look over the minutes since they're from August, since September did not happen. And if you need another couple moments to take a look at the August minutes, which I may abstain from since I was not here. Does anybody see any updates or changes?
I move that we accept the minutes.
I second that.
And I guess at that point, technically, at this point, are there any modifications or changes anybody would like to propose? Anybody help me? Okay. Let's take a vote on it. So we can just do all those in favor of passing the minutes, can say aye.
Aye.
For it, or would you like to abstain? the minutes have passed, and so we do have, a guest or two here. So the agenda, which you may not have in front of you, has no smoking marijuana in the parks, ice rink, and paving of Hemlock. Did anybody have public comments that are not related to the agenda? Such as the pool or
Splash pad.
like this or splash pad?
I'm sure I think of something, but no.
Okay. Should we see what?
She's here for me.
Rosemary, did you want to say anything? Okay.
Okay. Okay, yeah. And I'm guessing you're here for,
I'm here with the city.
with the city, sweet, okay. All right. So, do we have any communications to start with before we do our general business?
No, I've got a few things that aren't on the agenda that we can cover after we get through it, that we can touch on, but I don't have anything.
Okay. Same. Okay. So I see we have our general business starting with, smoking marijuana in the parks. It's a new development for me, so I'll be excited to hear about.
So, basically, what we're looking for is a recommendation from the Park and Rec Board to the city commission to come up with a rule or an ordinance that makes smoking marijuana in the parks not allowed. That we could put signage around, it would make it a policeable thing that we could handle. But we need a recommendation from the Park and Rec Board to do that.
Josh, why do you think that we need to be involved in the policing of marijuana in the parks?
I'd let you, I defer to you on that, yeah.
So, excuse me, sorry. There have been a number of complaints that have come into the city regarding individuals and groups in Hemlock Park or other parks, North Bend Park, where there's a lot of frequent visitors. I've experienced it myself. I was down at the kayak launch, just checking things, and there was a group of people sitting at the picnic table just smoking marijuana. It is not allowed to be consumed in public, but the put up signs without recommendation from the park board is where we're coming from on this. I brought this to the mayor's attention, and he wanted it to be brought to your attention, so that way them being the council, would have your interpretation of if it was something that needed to be addressed.
I don't know anything about the rules of marijuana use, and you're saying that it's illegal to smoke marijuana in public? Is that what you're saying?
On public property, you're not supposed to be smoking marijuana, that is correct.
That's part of the law. How are we going to police this?
Well, it gives, people the ability that are patrons to the park area to be able to help self-police, similar to the no smoking rule on the playgrounds. The rule that this park board made a recommendation to the city council, and we put up signs that said, no smoking, young lungs at play. We posted them around the playgrounds.
Okay, so I'm caught smoking in the pool area. I'm just making this up, okay? And the police find me. What is the chargeable offense? I mean, is it a misdemeanor? Is it I'm just trying to. I'm not saying you shouldn't do it. I'm not saying that at all, because again, it's the law. Okay, but I'm just trying to figure out how the police, with all the other stuff they've got going on, will they be reacting to this stuff, I guess is what my question is.
I mean, let's face it, if somebody is in a playground area and they're smoking a cigarette, it's really just a community-minded thing to say to another individual, hey, look, don't smoke in the playground area, like, it's not cool. And it's almost like the same kind of thing. Are there ordinances in place in the community that aren't enforced? Absolutely. If you look at the signs that are in downtown, we have no skateboarding, no biking, and things of that nature on the sidewalks, but people do it. And so it becomes more of a discretionary kind of rule that if law enforcement sees that action taking place, they can say, hey, look, there's a sign there, you're not supposed to do this, could you please knock it off? That's really what it comes down to.
So, I'll try to be in the presence of Foster, who's not here. Because I think this gets to the point that I'm thinking. I could see that the gathering areas such as the pavilions and the playgrounds could reasonably be designated as a, no smoking of anything kind of a area. But I think about the patrons that use the golf course, or the patrons that use these wide open areas that are classified as parks. And we know, that there's plenty of mostly responsible, disc golfing while smoking or while having a beer, a Coke, or whatever they have over there. In the same way that, I see people walk the parks having a cigar, or, a cigarette. And I've read I think the city and the state ordinance, and this definitely would be discretionary, right, if we were to do this. So this would be the city deciding this is how we want to handle the parks, but we have a big footprint of the parks. So I myself would be hesitant to say the parks, because that means everywhere that's defined as park, according to that. But if we want to do things, that's my opinion personally, if you want to do things where, like we've done before, where you target the problem areas, like if we know, not just Hemlock, but like we've seen other pavilions, I know what you're saying, where people are congregating, then there's minimal number of those, and you can have those signs up in those areas. But it sounds like you guys are doing proactive things with the Wi-Fi, because I would hate to put that burden on the police to think that anywhere anybody is in a park is using it. Ferris is thinking about doing this, going completely smoke-free. Does Big Rapids or Ferris Police really want to be the tobacco police? And that's it's the same dynamic. But like you said, prevention such as a sign in those areas that are high risk would make a lot of sense. I don't know anything, maybe Sandy or others could speak about like how that would be perceived around the athletic areas, like is there smoking that tends to happen around the softball,
Yes.
Baseball diamonds?
Yes.
And does it tend to be considered the norm? Like, or is it a
Norm,
problem?
it has become, you smell it every time you're playing softball. I do.
Does it become a problem where you're hearing players complain?
Not everybody loves the smell.
So it's some do, some don't.
I personally know someone who plays softball here and he complains about it, that now it's just become so prevalent and it's just kinda irritating to go play ball and
That's all.
smell that.
But so it sounds like our charge here, and just correct me if I'm wrong, is more so to help with prevention and just, hey, just be aware that this is not.
It's a matter of recommending that we post signs so that no one has the excuse of I didn't know.
Yeah. And so,
Sign is now there, you have no excuse to not know that you're not supposed to technically be doing it.
and so the policing aspect is not necessarily our charge per se, so,
Yeah, I like that awareness. It's
Yeah.
more about awareness.
yeah.
Did you envision those signs being targeted for pavilion areas in particular, or also at things like the parks, such as the ball fields? And I don't know if anybody had thought about like whether it was going to look like you come into a park entrance, every park entrance is going to have this, or is it more targeting the structures?
We can have you guys table this discussion and we can invite the chief of police or Dave Flory to come and answer some questions for you all. I'm sure they'd be more than happy to do that. And this is a discussion that doesn't have to happen and have finalized today. It was just that we were asked to bring it to you to start that kind of thinking, and maybe this gives you an opportunity to go to the parks and talk with other people and get their take on it too.
Now, some years ago, quite a few years ago, what, 7, 8, what year is this? Going back to 16.
Okay.
I was on this board and present at a meeting that we shared. We had a joint meeting with our city commissioners. And at the behest of then city attorney Steve Williams,
Oh, Eric Williams.
Eric Williams, recommended that we consider, not allowing marijuana use at our softball
That's so fun.
games and at our, as well, in our parks. His rationale for that seemed to be one of, if we allow that right now, it's gonna be a lot harder in the future to disallow that. So we kind of recommended, and we did, in fact, some years ago, vote that no, you know, how we allow beer consumption, alcohol at softball games. Well, what about marijuana? No, we said no.
Was marijuana legal at that point?
It was becoming.
But it
Or
wasn't,
was it law?
it wasn't at that point though.
At that point.
And how does the city handle, tobacco and vaping?
If you'll notice, there's two signs. One is everything. The other one is just marijuana. So that's another thing to consider.
Okay. The reason why I ask that is quite familiar with both the college students and others that, especially if it's not a joint, it becomes more challenging. You have people vaping tobacco, you'll have people vaping marijuana, you'll have, there's a lot of forms that people are now consuming, and I find the disposable containers around, and it is a little frustrating to find that stuff. But again, depending on how we handle other smoking, since the state law and the age is all in line now, everything's 21, alcohol, tobacco, and marijuana, we should probably look a little bit more carefully into how that is worded and aligned, because you're not going to have even us educated people always knowing whether somebody's actually using marijuana versus some other thing. And then if you start enforcing laws and rules that, that are, again, if it's not marijuana and it's tobacco, and then you've got somebody trying to show or prove that this thing that they're smoking is or isn't, now you've got a bigger challenge. So I think that maybe it would be worth looking a little bit more into what the current, both state law and the ordinances are, because sometimes it's obvious, but it's not. I mean, we see it on campus too. I could have kids walking across campus smoking marijuana, but most of the time I think it's just tobacco. I don't know. So, right, so.
I would stand as a board member to prohibit alcohol, marijuana, vaping, smoking in all our parks. I would.
I wouldn't, but
I
that's,
wouldn't either, but that's.
Just how I.
Yeah.
it's
But,
fine, it's your
and
opinion.
this is actually one of the polarizing issues, around the country. And Ferris was thinking about doing it, but we probably have 20, 30, 40% of our students, and maybe, what do you think on staff? Maybe 30, 40% of our staff, maybe even that utilize some form of tobacco, and the university's thinking about an entire boundary tobacco-free or smoke-free campus. And, we have to think of our audience too. Like, do you discriminate against the right to use the parks because somebody's doing something legal? If it's tobacco.
Is there a place where you can go and smoke that is kind of a not public, but I don't know, is there a designated area for?
Like for weed?
Yeah, I guess,
No,
like,
not
is there a hangout spot where it's allowed?
No.
The state law would allow for a consumption lounge. I don't
Yeah.
think we're there yet. And there are festivals and places where you can have licenses to have outdoor consumption, but as far as Big Rapids has gone, you guys are just on retail, I think.
A lot of retail, right?
The hardest thing is gonna be, again, defining what is and isn't marijuana. Because if you talk to police and law enforcement, they have to use, sometimes they just say somebody's under the influence of something, and until they have it analyzed, they don't always know if they're under the influence of alcohol, marijuana, LSD, methamphetamines.
When you're walking up to Hemlock Park to play in Playscape, because it's happened to me, you can clearly smell the marijuana. So I would recommend no marijuana because it is completely illegal in public.
I will say, I mean, I'm fine with tabling it if we want to wait and talk to chief or somebody she designates. But to me, I don't think our charge is not necessarily about the law enforcement and how it's going to be enforced. It's just about the awareness that
Not be doing it.
you should not be doing it. So
Aren't
I
we
separate the two.
already a smoke-free, city
No.
in its public buildings?
No, it's a, state law is 25, you have to be at least 25 feet from any building entrance. And there may be exceptions where you can't do it at all on school grounds or campuses. But that's pretty much, that's what the state law is.
So from what I hear, we will coordinate with chiefs to have a staff person come, if not her, in attendance to the next Park and Rec board meeting. Opportunity to think about that and talk to your fellow community members.
I am just a little bothered by the fact that Big Rapids allowed for all of these marijuana licenses and all of these storefronts, yet we're just saying, hey, buy all this weed from Big Rapids and
Go home and smoke.
100%,
Yeah.
but like, why did we insist on having 20 pot shops in town? Like, that's a little out.
Put a cap on it. When all this came into fruition, there was an opportunity where you could do like a lotto, or you could have a cap, and then you had to get into picking. And so the city council decided that, well, are we gonna start capping how many liquor stores there are? How many places you can buy beer? No, we're not gonna do that. So we figured it would be kind of the same kind of thing. And it's kind of fizzled out in its own respects as we anticipated, because it was super high. And the city got a bunch of tax monies from them, so did the county. And so it was beneficial in that capacity, and it fizzled out just as we had anticipated.
It just feels a little bit like it wasn't planned well, you know?
It was
allowing
planned for
all
a
of,
number of years with the community development and the planning commission.
but the aftermath, though, I guess, of it, it's just like, now we have to deal with all of these people that are smoking a lot of weed now in our town. So
And I
I
don't think
guess,
they realize that it's illegal to do
They
in
don't
public
realize
places.
They don't realize it.
I don't think they do, because they're in a public place.
yeah,
So that's,
that's a
we're coming to you
predicament.
to see how we can educate these people and what you think is the best direction to go, and do we consider doing all no smoking period? We've had that discussion before, and that's why it got segregated to just playgrounds.
I still haven't seen, not that I've seen, signs like this one right
No.
here.
All you see is signs on the playgrounds. That's what, those were just some mock
Mm-hmm.
signs to consider. I apologize, I have to go to my daughter's concert, I just wanted to stop in and talk to you guys about this one, so.
That, I mean, those signs would catch someone's attention, right? I mean,
Well, it would set the precedent.
yeah.
And then that is, you know, worrying about whether or not someone has a vape pen, a cigarette, or a joint. That's in the purview of our law enforcement. I have no problem with that.
But the thing is that smoking and vaping are not illegal in public places,
Correct.
in the parks.
Correct.
So that, what we're saying is that the marijuana smoking, is what I'm hearing, is illegal in public places. So this sign is saying all three, and two of them are legal.
So that would be us creating a more
What do
restrictive.
we wanna end up doing at that point? what you're saying it would create is you'd essentially be doing your no smoking on the playground like we already do, but then you'd be doing a marijuana specific one for the park overall.
And when you say the park, you're saying the entire boundaries of the parks too?
Correct.
Okay.
Because again, it's law that's not allowed, so that's what it would be is, and again, it's not us enforcing it, it's just putting the sign out there so that people are aware. People make their own choices, they're going to continue to do that whether we put the signs out there or not. But at least we've done our due diligence and made them aware that what they're doing or what they're choosing to do is illegal in that park. And if a police officer shows up and says, you can't be smoking marijuana in the park, there was a sign that said they couldn't do it.
So the city does have some, actually increasingly more cameras up, and that would, you would start to kind of get to the point of like, at some point citizens would wonder, is the city going to be policing this as opposed to law enforcement, and, are those cameras being used for that purpose? And that could invite some, both legitimate and illegitimate, claims by people, invasion of privacy and other things along the lines. Because again, right, because we'd have recordings of everybody walking through the parks, and how do those get used, I'm getting that, we can't solve that problem, we would just be making a recommendation, but I like to think about the implications of doing something.
We're getting more and more, I mean, August, we talked about it. It's almost like our transient community. We're having more problems with is it fair for me to say that the transient community is causing us more problems in the parks? Therefore, are they the ones that we're seeing with the marijuana, or I'm just asking?
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily, okay, all right,
We do have a lot of people,
Just public users.
but yeah.
okay.
If you want, we can table again, like she said, we can table this if you'd like to till the next meeting, we can get public safety.
Table it.
in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll second that.
Okay, yeah, we could table it. Thanks for bringing it up, because it's important.
Alright, ice rink. So the liner is broken, we've had 2 bad winters, and unfortunately with that, some people decided that to check the ice, they were gonna throw cinder blocks on it to see if it was solid, and it wasn't. This caused the liner to get torn and unusable. So with that, and the fact that we've had a couple of bad winters, and the new irrigation down at Hemlock Ball Field, we're gonna take a year off from utilizing the ice rink. Review if there's a different location. We're going to do it also looking at whether we can repair the liner or if we're going to purchase something new or if we're going to continue it. But for this year, we're going to plan to not utilize the ice rink.
And does the water get turned off at the entire park as it gets into the winter? Because
Yes, it gets winterized.
Okay, so yeah, so here's why I ask is where I live down in Randolph, they literally just had a depression in the ground, and the fire department would come in and fill it with water and freeze over an outdoor rink. I've seen things without liners, but obviously that can't be done unless somebody like the fire department was to come in if the water's turned off there.
When I was growing up, the basketball court at Brookside, the fire department would come and flood that.
Yep.
And we would skate on that.
Tennis courts, I used to play hockey with no helmet in tennis courts back in the 80s.
Yep.
But we're not gonna do that to our tennis, beautiful.
Not the new ones, no.
The thought is that taking a year off and again, replacing liner or whatever it is we may do, bring it back to Hemlock when Hemlock's finished. We'll ideally have a warming station in place as well, so it'd kind of be nice to bring that back with that in place.
Would you want us as a board to look into, are there other better options than a liner that's probably gonna regularly get damaged for something like this? It's not the beautiful ice arena downtown that we had
No.
pre-COVID
I know,
aspirations of.
I know,
But
that was my question too.
You're welcome to if you see or find anything. I actually was just at a Park and Rec conference with someone who utilizes the fake ice, which is I'm gonna categorize it wrong. It's like a plastic that you can skate on basically. But they said that it does not hold up long term very well, and it's just not the same. So that they're finding it's not as well received as if they'd have just done a liner nice rip. So, but there's other options for sure, things that we could look at doing. Might mean changing location. I don't know that we wanna totally change the location just because of putting in that warming station, but things to look at.
If you had to spitball how much the city spent on that liner, do you have any idea?
That was purchased before I was around, actually. It's been around for a while.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and of course, since then, prices have gone up. All right. Paving of Hemlock. So that is currently underway. It'll be open this weekend. And then ideally, it will finish by the end of this next week, weather permitting. But that is the plan. So then from there, the paving will be done with Hemlock Park. That'll be the entire road in, access, as well as parking lot. Okay?
That's not
That sounded
finished.
good.
I know. Something fell. It's not finished.
Sorry, let me check.
For the Fall Fest though, is it? It's like after that Fall Fest on the 20, I think. Oh, just wondering if it's finished, you know how like Josh was helping coordinate that downtown Fall Festival around the 20th or 21st?
It's the 19th, it's supposed to be done.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just thinking, cause there's gonna be a lot of use downtown that weekend. So the,
I don't even know.
I think it's
Oh.
the 21st. Maybe
yeah,
on
it must be the
Saturday.
yeah,
Saturday.
yeah, I was looking at a calendar, yeah, 21st is that Saturday, so there's a big stuff kinda going on, probably
Trick or
chili
treat and all
cook-offs and
that.
all that kinda stuff downtown.
Sorry, go ahead and ask
Oh,
again.
we were just, wondering whether or not, you know, when the Fall Fest was and whether it might be done, but he's thinking that it might be done
Yeah,
before the Fall Fest.
final touches are gonna be done during the week of October 16th, so next week, and so it should be done that Friday, weather dependent.
Right. And chili cook-off is next Friday evening, and then Fall Fest is on Saturday.
Okay. That's awesome. I had to move my car. I went down that way and then I was like, oh, Hemlock is really closed. It's the first time it's actually been closed. Yes, yes.
Are they going to cut into this pavement for reasons of, the continued construction of?
I think everything is in place that needed to be before they did any paving. So any piping that's gonna be running to the splash pad, to my understanding, that's already been laid, so that now they're just digging where they're going to put that reservoir and putting in the splash pad, but I believe there shouldn't be any cutting into it after it's done.
Hopefully.
I don't know why I asked that. It seems as though I heard they're gonna pave that and they're just gonna tear it up next year to put in more splash pad piping
I don't know if they're
or
gonna
something.
tear it up, it'll be a matter of it's going to be driven on by construction vehicles. So it will potentially get damaged in that sense, and it'll need some repair, because of the fact that we're going to be demoing Playscape as well as putting in the splash pad. So there's still going to be construction happening, but as for specifically ripping out sections of road, that is not something that I'm aware of.
Yeah. And that area's gonna get beat up if it has to have another winter without pavement on it too.
Correct, and that's the big concern at this point, is it needs to be protected by the pavement at this point, going into another winter.
Do we have a plan of what happens to, I guess, all the wood of Playscape?
So actually, that's one of the next things I'll be talking about. Yeah, I've got a few things that are not on the agenda that I wanted to talk to you guys about, bring you up to speed. So we had no bids on Playscape in the splash pad project. So we have a 25-day lead time on bids due to the MEDC being involved and it being tied to grants. We cannot just go out to a contractor and say, hey, do this. We have to continue to go through the bid process, but we do have someone who is interested in bidding. He explained to us that going into it, he didn't quite have enough time to pull everything he needed for the information to be able to do the project, so he couldn't make the bid in time for this one, but he will be prepared and intends to do that next go round.
So even one bid is enough to satisfy the state's requirements?
It just has to go out to bid. It can't be, we find a contractor and say, we choose you, it has to go out to bid. But with that being the case, we've had conversations with Ferris about potentially having the basketball team come in and dismantle the parts that have namesake favors or hold meaning to some people, whether that be, the fish on the walls or certain poles that have names or whatever that may be, before the demo, so that those parts can be saved. There's a lot of moving factors with that though, depending on the contractor that we do end up with. They may want to come in as early as winter before everything, so that it's cleared out and ready and they have themselves more time to actually work on the project. A lot of things are in the air at this time based around what contractor we get and what the plan ends up being. The plan is to absolutely take out as much as we can to give to people that they want back. But knowing a timeline makes that tough to work around. They want to leave it up for now.
You obviously know I'm with hockey with Ferris anyway. This year, all Ferris hockey players have got to do so many hours of community service per week. And Leslie Daniels was very instrumental in getting that playscape going, so you might wanna reach out, and Bob might, because of the relationship, might want the hockey team to help too.
Sure, yeah.
I mean, I know it's a little bit different, but you know what I mean?
Well, and nothing's guaranteed with the Ferris basketball team as well anyway, because they have a schedule that we have to work around. They have to get through their playoffs, however long that may go, and then they have to take 2 weeks off before they can do anything team related again. So depending on how far they run into their postseason,
Well,
they
again,
may
my,
not even be available either. So they're not a lock as well, but they were the first persons that we asked because we had a different project lined up for them and that fell through, so it was, what else could we possibly do?
okay, but I mean, it
They're not
might
locked,
be
but
another
we can
group too.
absolutely reach out to them.
Yeah, I would reach out to them, because we were commenting that a lot of them are helping out with the Braja groups, but Braja's done in March, and they still have April and May that they've gotta do community service, so, it might be a good fit.
Rob Bentley up there in athletics, or, could really just, again, if you get to the point, I'm sure there's athletes that would probably help.
The lighting company, I don't know if you guys were discussing that a little bit earlier, they'll be in Sweet Hill to light up the tree, like we did in Osceola Park. They will be doing Osceola Park as well. All of that will be happening. He was in town today. Thought that Steve was part of OSHA.
Taking photos and, they're a little scared of me, cause I didn't have my Big Rapids logo on my jacket, so. They thought I was OSHA and they called, City Hall, so. That's fun.
And then we got a RAP grant. It was not a Spark grant as Heather and I originally thought. It's the RAP grant, WRAP. For Depot Park, we were awarded $450,000. Right now, that's staying on the down low because of a couple of moving parts and the fact that I believe that has a 50% match. So this is going to be a large project that will see Depot Park completed. But we did get awarded that, so I wanted to make you guys aware.
That's awesome.
What's the timing on that? What's the deadlines on those?
Good question.
Okay.
I was,
I
That's
mean,
what I
we
was
have it for
told.
4 years, we have it for, the way we've been going with with these bids.
I wish I was more help. Sometimes I just tell you what I was told.
Got it, that's fine, that's fine.
It's exciting.
And then lastly, the last thing I really had, is it was brought to us, we're looking at potentially needing fewer people at the meeting to qualify as a quorum. We're not sure if we can do that or not, just so that we can have more of our meetings actually take place, cause it's getting difficult. But at the same time, we're also looking at, would a time change to the meeting help with that? Would moving it up to 5:30 instead of continuing at 6:30 make it easier for people to make it if they're coming basically from work, do a meeting and then call it instead of, and I know some people like the opportunity to run home, let their dog out, do whatever they need to do and then come back in. You want to do 5:30? It's the options out there. We're throwing it up to you guys to see if that's something you want to do.
Good. Anybody have an opinion?
I I'm good either way, what everybody
Yeah.
wants to do.
My vote was noon on Thursday. No, I'm just kidding.
I like that.
6:30 is good. I'm fine either way.
Yeah, me too.
I generally leave it at 6:30.
Leave it at 6:30 is where you stand? Okay.
Or 6 like I thought it was.
There's that too. And it doesn't have to be a whole hour ahead if it's 6 instead of 6:30.
Do you think it's the timing that we're not getting a quorum?
Totally sure. That's why we're throwing it out there and seeing what you guys think.
It tends to be, when one of us misses, for speaking for myself, it tends to be just that day
Yeah, me
I'm
too.
not available. Is that where you?
Yeah, has something to do with the time.
If you guys aren't too picky on it, then we'll keep it at 6:30. Yeah, okay. But we'll continue to let you know what we find out when it comes to what we can do about what the quorum has to be. Because if we have 9 on the board, the quorum right now has to be 5. Can that be 4? What does it need to be? So we need to figure out what that works within since.
Especially when you're down a person.
Right, so that's when you're looking at, by not being elected, you're a volunteer board, does it need to be, what does that quorum have to be? So they're having conversations with Tammy Gillis to see what that actually looks like, so that we can still have the meetings and still do the things, make the recommendations that are required, or whatever that may look like. Just at least even keeping you guys.
As you look into that, find out if the laws are at all adapting to the fact that, I mean, we're creating this technology so that people can participate, you know, and we now have a law that in a post-COVID non-whatever world that you can't, like Foster was one time joining on here and that doesn't count as a member because he's not in person. So it'd be interesting to find out whether or not that part is gonna adapt, because that's new for the Public Meetings Act to consider.
Anything else? Any other questions? Otherwise, I actually do have one more thing I'll update you guys on. But otherwise, if you guys have questions, go ahead and ask. Okay. The update I have for you is, and I actually was able to let the pool committee know this when we did meet a while back. We are working with an architecture firm to come up with a new layout for the community pool building. Not sure what that looks like, got some ideas, things, preferences that we'd like to cater to update the building. But we're including a lot of different things in that as well, so that when we get a total project, it is a comprehensive project and everything can get done that needs to be done.
The footprint
sorry, go
is the
ahead.
same.
The footprint is the same, yeah. The checker's office potentially becomes the checker's office and, concession stand. Concession stand potentially becomes the office. The office potentially becomes the family locker room that is available to people that would lead out onto the deck, so that we actually have a family locker room that people can utilize and go out on the deck, while still then having the 2 locker rooms available to people. Updating the shower systems so that they're not off of a tower system, they're actually off individuals in stalls with dividers and curtains or doors, so that you have some privacy as well. Making sure everything's ADA compliant, bringing that all up to code as well as reef marsiting at the deep end. Those were the big things. There's a few other things I think that may have been discussed, but it's between the architect firm, as well as we've got Ferris architect students are using that as a project to work on and come up with some ideas as well for what we could do with that space to update it.
Did we find out if we have some Boy Scout or whatever that's gonna do the flagpole?
I haven't heard back from Rebecca on that yet. And actually, we were supposed to have a Veterans Day meeting today, and that ended up getting canceled. Not everybody could make it. So the next time I see him, though, I am going to be checking in with him again. Yep.
Other than that, I know the pool is at rest for the year, but there, with people that care about the pool, if there are any other things, whether the park there, any other concerns that were going on with those areas?
You know, I mean, the normal concern about the traffic going down to the parks at the time of day it is. But we probably have that at North End Park too, and I just don't see it. Do you know what I mean?
people going into Clay Cliffs and such,
Yeah.
odd hours of the night.
Yeah. Or they're sitting down and you can hear them in the pavilion or whatever. But that's, you know, I mean, it's just that I see it because I'm there.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, again, we probably have it at Northland Park, we probably have a suite, you know, every place else. So,
And the parks are open until a certain time of night.
Yes.
Is there a gate
No.
to any entrance of anything?
not the one I'm talking about either. I don't think at North End, they've gotta get through because there's, Homes on the other
yeah,
side.
Right, right.
I don't think any of our parks have gates, do they?
No, I think the last one to have it was Hemlock, and that was
That's
removed.
the one, yeah.
And until that becomes a direct need, probably makes sense to not have, you know?
At this point, really what ends up happening is officers do drive-throughs in
Yeah.
each of the parks, you know, where they can drive and
Yep.
monitoring those areas, but
The community pool used to have, like, years ago when it was dammed up creek water.
Is the kayak launch,
I believe that's been
Removed?
removed. I believe it has been. Yeah?
I'm not sure, in all honesty, I,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
I feel like it has been. I'm not totally sure, but I feel like it has been.
Hemlock or, oh,
Yeah, the kayak launch down at Hemlock. We can email you and let you know for sure, though.
Well, it should be removed here fairly soon anyway.
If not.
were there any problems
Not that I was aware of, no.
all summer? No.
It'd be great to,
I think the only thing we noticed, or we found out, that someone takes and launches their boat down at Hemlock. Launches their boat at Hemlock,
our actual boat,
as in like backs their truck down and launches.
Oh,
like a small boat of some.
Yeah. Yeah. And apparently he's been doing it for a long time, and we just found out.
crafty.
So, yeah,
So you probably
we're,
wondered why he couldn't do it anymore, right?
we're working on that one now, so.
Those cameras.
Right.
And I know it's not our park, but, High Banks Park, are they getting a a kayak launch? Do you know that? Anything? Okay.
I don't know for sure.
Really
I know there's been
talked about-
discussion
I
about that
know
would be
the
a great
Craft
spot for
Township's
it.
talked about it, but I didn't,
Yeah.
okay. It'd be nice to have one there too, but.
Between that and one north of town too would be great, yeah.
Paris or,
Something that might be useful for us to think about and know, and I don't know if it's even known yet, but like, see if there's a city plan for like when approximately the kayak launch is gonna go in each year and when approximately it's gonna come out, cause that could easily be communicated to the public. Hey, did you know we have this and it's gonna go in on whatever week, so that it's available
And each year it'll obviously
Be a
vary
little
each
different.
year, and it'll be one of those, once we determine when we're gonna put it in, then we'll notify and say, hey, kayak launch is going in at such and such a date, or if you wanted to use it, the last date's gonna be this date and it'll be removed, so.
Yeah. I don't think you guys know yet until you've kind of worked through it, but
Oh yeah, and trying to watch the weather and determine what's gonna be, the best decision, put it in too early in May and all of a sudden we get a blistering snowstorm, or if that causes any damage, whatever, so.
yeah. It was dedicated, what, in June?
Yeah.
yeah,
First or second week of June?
and it was only put in very shortly before that, if I remember right. So,
yeah, I think it was more.
Will city softball happen at Hemlock Park in 2024?
Yeah, it actually started doing it this year, and then they did fall ball. So,
Ah,
yeah, so they will be doing it in 2024. It will be open back to that. The only reason it wasn't was because of the irrigation project. Once that was done and it was actually playable again, then we made it available to city softball. I don't know that they chose to change their schedule to start utilizing it until fall ball, but there were other events that took place on it.
it seemed as though the whole of Hemlock Park was a very just slow pace all summer
Yeah,
due to the, obvious construction.
Mhm.
And a whole lot of that is facing us next year.
yeah, there'll definitely be more.
other parks though have been getting quite a bit of use. I've been,
Oh yeah,
I
definitely.
mean, the playground at the,
Anything that's gonna help us get more
library park
ideas
is
for
getting
the
a
other
lot of
parks.
use. and
Yeah, yeah.
You know, I couldn't speak for the ones on the east side of town other than Northern Park. Sweet Hill to, you know, wandering up, that gets used all the time, but like, I don't know if that one neighborhood one's getting used over there on the east side, but I haven't seen too many parks that are quiet.
Mary Pine Park, right, Mary Pine Park on the east side.
That's probably the only one I
My
can.
daughter and I use it.
So there you go.
Live right close to there, so,
There
yeah.
you go. So you, then,
Is that Linden Street?
Yes.
Will our city, utilize any other, softball, fields this coming year,
I think all fields will be in use.
including, what's the?
Oh, High
park
Banks?
That isn't ours, High Banks.
That I'm not sure. That one, I think the Women's Softball League steered away from using. They preferred Vogel 2 and Hemlock.
I know that the younger kids use that one.
Yeah, Little League uses that a
Little
lot
League
now.
used it.
And industrial gets used quite frequently.
Yep. The backfield industrial gets used by Little League, not so much by softball at all. We've got a field problem. There's a field shortage, definitely, when Little League is in action and softball tries to start, or women's or men's or whatever. There's just not enough fields.
Is that something that our committee could explore at some point in time?
We've had conversations about creating a complex with multiple fields, a multiple sporting field complex, whether it be soccer and baseball and softball and all of it. There's just not a place in the city to do it.
You'd have to join with the township. And since I didn't win the Powerball, I can't help there.
Can't just foot that bill and say make it happen.
There's certain corporations that might donate
I
some
know
land
that
for,
too.
Oh, yeah.
for goodwill.
Yeah, that's what I said too. I have two things. Can I do that? Okay, real fast. Can we have, not this time, but at the next meeting, can we have an update on what's going on with the skate park?
Yeah, because we're actually coming due to do the submission for the grant that was coming around this time anyway, so I'll definitely have more information for you, especially at the next meeting.
Okay. And then it's my understanding that the city master plan is going on.
Master plan is actively going on, and they're talking, the vote that's coming up is for the,
November,
yeah,
that was for charter revision.
charter revision, that's what it is. So, yeah, so the master plan is actively happening.
Okay, so the question is that, and I've not been privy to this before, cause I know we did the master plan that we have. Okay?
Yeah, the park. and Rec.
Park and Rec, how does the master plan for the city, does it incorporate our master plan?
That's a good question, because I've never been through a master plan myself. I would have to imagine it incorporates our 5-year plan, plus, I know they're having,
They're having meetings.
yes, yep, they're having public meetings for, focus groups for downtown businesses, downtown housing. Like, all of that stuff is going to actively be happening. But I can check with Michelle, tomorrow and see what exactly is going to be needed on our end for that.
I don't know, I mean, I know that I've been invited to one of the meetings, I'm just trying to figure out if I needed to be prepared discussing this with,
Probably not in that sense. If you were
Okay.
invited to one of those meetings, probably not. It wasn't in that capacity, I should say.
Okay.
But I will check and see at what point that may come around where we are needed for something like that, or if we are, like what that will look like. So,
cause it just means that I might need to brush up on. Okay,
yep, I can follow up on it.
those are the two things I had, thank you.
Yeah, is that a Park and Rec plan available anywhere on the city's
It's on
website?
the city website, right?
I would assume that it is. The city's getting a new website in the next 2 months, so, and it's gonna,
And to be fair, the person that actually completed the 5-year plan for us,
yeah,
it's on.
correct.
So, we'll follow up on that for you too.
Yes, because it may or may not be out there, and I don't
Yeah.
know. I'm guessing it probably
If
should.
it is, it
Yeah,
should.
the city's website, there's a lot of, clicking, it's, sometimes stuff is buried, so we'll have to.
Yeah.
The new website is definitely supposed to be far more user-friendly and not.
Yeah. I've seen the new website, it's a lot more simpler.
Awesome. Anything else for the good of the day and the good of the board? staff reports, I'm guessing,
What we got? Yep.
right? Cause I interpreted everything other than what was on the agenda as your staff report. But let's see, what else do we got?
Oh, and the other one is, you already talked about the community reports.
Yeah, that would have been the only committee that had met, from my understanding. So only thing we have is apparently our next meeting is November 9th, 2023 at 6:30 PM. I should be able to be here. Shall we adjourn? Is there any objections to it? No? Here, I'll go like this. I don't feel like gaveling. Okay, we'll call it at 7:00.